Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma zidna ilma warzuqna fahma. Let me begin with a very simple question. When you meet someone for the first time, what is the second thing you ask after their name? Now, most of us would just ask, "What do you do?" But what we really mean in our heart is, "How much do you earn?" We may not say it directly. We may even think we are just being courteous and polite. But behind that particular question we ask sits a very deeper assumption that a person's worth can be understood through their work and more precisely through their income. There has been a quiet shift in our lifetime, particularly the past 200 years. It did not come with noise. It did not come with a major protest somewhere. It settled slowly into our thinking. We have begun to measure the human being by his wage. The teacher, the nurse, the craftsman, even the cleaner and the farmer, the mother at home, all of them contribute to the fabric of society. Yet their worth is silently ranked based on what the market is willing to pay. And so we begin to internalize something very dangerous. If I earn more, I am worth more. If I earn less, I am worth less. And this becomes the hidden curriculum of life. Our children absorb it early. Our institutions reinforce it. Our conversations normalize it. And before long, we are no longer asking, "Who am I becoming?" We are asking, "What am I worth in the market?" This is not just an economic issue, it is an internal one. When worth is tied to money, to currency, the nerves becomes restless. It becomes, or it even begins to chase even more. Not because it needs more, but because it fears of being less. The akal becomes an optimizer. It calculates, it strategizes. It asks, what is the fastest way to increase my value? The kalb, if neglected, begins to harden. It no longer feels the weight of injustice, but it becomes everything has been framed as fair exchange. And the ruh, it becomes distance, quiet, almost forgotten. This is what I mean when I say the sovereign compass is out of balance. We are still functioning, yet internally something is misaligned. Now we must be really honest when we consider the issues which I'm presenting today. People are not simply greedy. They are particularly responding to a system they have inherited. We live in an environment where basic needs are increasingly tied to purchasing power. Housing is expensive. Healthcare is privatized, commercialized. Education can leave the young in debt. Even security and dignity feel conditional. In such a system, self-interest is not always a moral failure. It becomes a survival response. But what that does not make the system just. In fact, it reveals something even much deeper. We are living in an order where the economy has become sovereign. It dictates how we live, how we perceive things, how we prioritize, and how we measure success. And governments, instead of restraining this force, often align themselves with it. I want you to now step back a bit and consider a different question. What would governance really look like if it were built upon responsibility rather than profit. When we look at the example of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, we are not just looking at a nostalgic past. We are looking at a different way of thinking. Sayyidina Umar did not begin with the expansion of the economy or growth figures. He began with the question of accountability before Allah. It is reported that he feared being questioned about a neglected animal on a distant road. Now, that is not a small statement to make. That is a complete philosophy of governance. It means that leadership is not about control, it is about care. Imagine if today's leaders begin asking different questions. Are people able to live with dignity? Are the weak protected? Are the sick treated? Are families secure? Are markets honest? Not as slogans, as real responsibilities. In such a framework, healthcare is not a product. Housing is not speculation. Education is not debt. They are all obligations by the state. Now, if you look at this, you're wondering whether it becomes a welfare situation. No, it's not. Islam does not reject trade and profit. It never has. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself was a trader, a businessman. The early Muslim community built vibrant economies, but the market was never allowed to become the master. It was always placed within a specific moral framework. You can earn, but you must be just. You must be just. You can profit, but you must not exploit. Again, just. You can grow, but you must not concentrate your wealth in a way that harms societies. Today, we have inverted all these concepts. The market is sovereign. The human being is being made secondary. And once you see this inversion, everything begins to shift. When remuneration becomes the primary measure of worth, society loses its ability to recognize real value. The person who cares for others may be underpaid. The person who speculates may be over-rewarded. But the system doesn't see this as a problem because the system measures value through price. And price is not always aligned with truth. Now, this is where the deeper loss occurs, not just through injustice or even inequality, but a loss of a level of moral clarity. So, what do we do next? We cannot simply walk away from the system. We live within it. We have responsibilities, we have families, but we can begin to recalibrate. First, within ourselves. We must detach our identity from our income. We must earn to live, but not live to earn. So we must ask ourselves again, who am I becoming? What am I serving? What will carry me beyond this life? Secondly, now within our communities, we must begin to honor contribution that the market ignores. The teacher, the caregiver, the honest worker, the one who serves quietly. We must rebuild a culture that sees beyond price. Now, third, within governance itself, we must speak again of duty. Public infrastructures is not optional. It is part of justice. Healthcare, housing, education, access to livelihood. These are not luxuries. They are part of preserving the dignity of every individual in the state. Perhaps the most important shift is this. Today, the modern world asks the question, how do I get ahead? But a just society asks, who is being left behind? And that question changes everything. It changes the equation. Let me leave you with this. A civilization can survive inefficiencies. It can survive mistakes. It can even survive corruption for a level of for a certain amount of time. But it cannot survive the loss of its moral center. When a society begins to believe that a human being is only as valuable as his wages, it has already begun to hollow itself out. The question before us is not whether we should be paid. The question is whether we have allowed payment to define who we are, and whether we are prepared to reclaim that, not just in policy, but in the way we live. O Allah, do not make this world the greatest of our concerns, nor the limit of our knowledge. Wabillahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.